Since my last video diving into dinosaur game scams, I got a few comments about some other games, which led me down a rabbit hole revisiting some old yet familiar faces. And now we are back with 3 dinosaur games that once again met a very sorry fate. We're starting this list off with a game that wasn't a scam, but one that departed us last year. The FPS wave-based dinosaur game Second Extinction. A game that saw you teaming up with your friends in a bid to reclaim Earth, and while doing so, fighting off hordes of mutant dinosaurs with mutated raptors and rexes, among others, which instilled unique attacks like electric shocks, acid spitting, and even waves of reinforcement. You had an aim to stop these dinosaurs, destroy them and their nests, and fight through various threat levels, clearing out the danger as you went through. This was a fun and popular game, however, it didn't stand the test of time. So what happened? Let's go back to the very start, when the game was released onto Xbox Game Pass in 2021 with a full release scheduled for 2022. Yet this did not happen. The game was delayed twice, once in November 2022 and then once again until the following year in 2023. Apparently this was down to missing targets and some very stubborn bugs refusing to be fixed and often being too difficult to reproduce. This was something that was clearly communicated. They even listed every single bug out in their latest dev blog post. So surely it wasn't the reason for the end, right? Well, let's be honest. Despite the game's original high accolades and roaring popularity amongst its loyal community, that did not pan out for a major player base. The game peaked to 2,000 players upon PC release, but then that trickled down to below 100 players within its first year. The Xbox Game Pass release did help bring some life for a brief amount of time, but unfortunately that was not enough. With few and far between updates, the game didn't help sustain its player base. Just imagine the fall off in Halo Infinite's player base, but for a small indie company. It wasn't sustainable. And then on October 16th, 2023, over a year ago now, the developers of Second Extinction announced that the game had ultimately been cancelled, ending the development and pulling the plug on the game. They pulled it from the storefront, closed the servers a little while after. They blamed it on issues preventing it from leaving early access, as well as missing targets, forcing them to reevaluate the game's development. A lack of resources didn't help either, and a small team of a game that was waning in popularity, bringing in little funds, the game's development was on a knife's edge, and unfortunately, that knife fell. I think to end Second Extinction, it's probably best to close the chapter on the closing paragraphs that Avalanche Studios Group left us with. So this was that. As game developers, we always try to highlight our wins, but sometimes we also need to celebrate our failures. Although Second Extinction did not achieve the goals we aspired to, it remains a success for us on many levels. Our small team turned an innovative concept into a fast-paced, fun experience that is amazing when shared with friends. And when it's all said and done, our mission is to bring this kind of joy to players everywhere in creative and explosive ways. In addition, Second Extinction has been a major learning experience for us. We've come away with a list of things that worked incredibly well and things we know to avoid for future projects. One thing is for certain, while Second Extinction may be coming to a close, our commitment to crafting memorable moments that capture the magic of gaming will never fade. And now we talk about a dinosaur game that we all love to hate, but does have a soft spot for those nostalgic gamers back in 2014, until it was ruthlessly snatched away from us. Back in May 2013, a dinosaur game called the Stomping Lands will become the first dinosaur survival game to enter the field, via a Kickstarter campaign that gained over $20,000 in funding within its first 24 hours. By the time the crowdfunding ended, it had reached over $144,000, and adding future sales of the game, it could be argued this game netted $150,000 if not more. The game entered early access a year later on May 30th, but that's when the issues started to show. From that last update in May, the game's social medias fell eerily silent for 2 months, which caused alarm for many, especially when Jig had promised frequent updates to the game. Supercrit, which was the game studio for the game, had its website taken down around the same time as well. Then in September that year, in 2014, the game was removed from Steam's early access program, with the lead developer claiming it went down because it was being moved to Unreal Engine 4. This all started to feel very fishy. The game's modeler, Vlad Konstantinov, said that he has to freeze his work for the game until he gets paid. This was in December 2014, and well, in February, Vlad sold the assets off to the Isle and Beasts of Prey, claiming that Jig never paid him and ignored any request to do so. And you'd think the story would end here. The Stomping Land would fade off into existence, it would just be there, it came, it saw, Jig took the money and left. But no, the game came back to life. Jig returned to the project, and you'd think that would be a happy ending. Well, it's Jig we're talking about here. We're not talking about a massage on the back streets of Bangkok. Jig involved, there's no happy ending. But what did he claim? Well, he renamed the game to Stomping Land. He was making a new separate experimental branch for this game. There will be open daily testing for the branch, as if everyone who owned the game was an internal developer. The store wasn't coming back up for now, and more updates were to come. Long story short, however, Jig then got rinsed for this in the Steam forums for the game, then going on a ruthless campaign to silence any critic acting on the dreams of his idol, Joseph Stalin. Anyone who outspoke the game got banned. But it didn't last long at all. In a full circle event on May 30th, 2023, the last post was made, explaining about a summer update for the game, which never came. And now I think we can finally bury the Stomping Land, because, well, it's stolen all the money it needed, and hopefully Jig doesn't return to the dinosaur scene again. Saurian is an incredible single-player dinosaur game that takes place in the historic Hell Creek formation. You are the dinosaur. You experience the life of a dinosaur, starting from the egg. You must survive all the way to adulthood amidst the perilous ecosystem, which is the Hell Creek, which was also meticulously crafted by a talented and passionate dev team with help from very professional paleontologists. However, that's not what we're talking about, because on May 31st, 2021, Soran released a disclosure statement regarding the game's former manager, stating that we feel an ethical duty to inform our backers of an internal crisis that we've been dealing with for the last few months. Outlining from the game's release in 2017, something was not right, coming to a head a year prior to the statement, which would have been in December 2020. It had been realised that the game's former manager had been siphoning funds from the game's bank account. Originally, when asked to share the bank data so they could share it to the community to showcase, what they've been spending their money on and where's it going, for confidence and communication, well, he refused. He refused to give over any access, or resisted as well. He resisted to do it. And after hard pressing, he crumbled and confessed. Since becoming the manager of the game's funds in 2016, he had been stealing money, slowly, meticulously, carefully, so no one would realise what he's doing, netting over $75,000 from the game's bank. An egregious injustice to all of the game's customers and backers, and all who worked and bled for this project. The game had practically been robbed of the majority of its money from 2016 all the way to 2020. For 4 years, this game was being bled dry. And now, since June 30th, 2023, there's been no activity from the developers. Saurian's devblog 124 was seemingly the final development update for the game. stating that they were discontinuing the monthly devlogs because right now there are no full-time employees for the game. They're all volunteers. What a sorry and sad ending for one of the most exciting dinosaur games of the 2010s. Saurian, unfortunately, won't be back to its great level, at least for a long time. And that is a very sad note to end on.